Welcome to the Angelscapes podcast, where you're encouraged to uncover and develop a direct connection with your soul's power, wisdom, and spiritual intuition that is ready to blossom. We'll explore new ideas, compelling tips, and real steps to help you learn simple spiritual practices. We're a safe place to learn more about accessing your soul's power with education and spiritual wholeness that could bring more clarity to your life. Now here's your host, a practicing medium, Akashic Records practitioner, spirit artist, coach, and mentor, Dr. Reverend Nancy Smith.
Are you looking forward to the winter months ahead now that November is ending and December is beginning? What spiritual grace can be present in the darkest months of the years? Hello, this is Angelscapes, and I'm your host, Nancy Smith. Join me for a talk on the meaning and gifts of the winter months. They bring us a lot of surprises if we choose to open up to them. Listen in for tips on preparing spiritually for the darkest month of the year. So winter solstice is coming. It's usually starts, it's December 21st, 22nd, and it's the year when the path of the sun in the sky is the farthest south in the northern hemisphere. But in any event, the days are shorter, and for some northernmost territories, the sun doesn't even rise. Native Americans and other indigenous groups view a medicine wheel that has seasons and cycles within it. And it's a circle of teaching that explains that anything growing is a system of circles and cycles. And the seasons, so the cycles in life in the medicine wheel have 4 directions, and those directions correspond to the directions of the cycles of the seasons, and they correspond to even more than that in our personal lives. So how it works is we go to the east, and in the east, the spring is in the east, and then go to the south, summer is in the south, and go to the west, fall is in the west, and then winter is in the north. Another cycle of life would be baby, youth, adult, and elder. So we put the baby in the spring in the east as the sun rises, and then the youth would be in the summer with full growth and prosperity and learning. And then the adult will be in the fall, where the crops are ready to get harvested and brought into the barn, where we have learned all that we can learn, and we're ready to grow into a very mature place, which is our elder years, which is north. The colors of these directions are: spring in the east is an orange, kind of yellow, and summer in the south is green, and then fall in the west is a deep reddish orange, and then winter is north, which is blue. And all of these seasons, all of these cycles and colors do align with different angels. Where Archangel Michael, we're talking about the north, we're talking about winter, and we're talking about now, I want to invoke in Archangel Michael, who also wears the color blue. So on a personal level, the 4 directions of human growth are emotional, which is in spring, which is in the east, and in mental, which is in the south, physical, which is in the west, and then spiritual is in the north. The west is a time of great transition. It's also the time of death. It's the time when you're way up north in the northern hemisphere, the trees actually lose their leaves. They turn colors. And the plants go to sleep. There's like a mini death in all of the growing systems cycles here. And then many of the animals will go into hibernation. The bears for certain, and the any foxes, they're digging down deep to find the place under the ground that they can be safe and warm enough, and they can hibernate through this very cold season. So in this time north, let's talk about the spirituality of the north, of the frozen ice if you're way up in north, or the less sun. The sun is not coming out, so we're losing an outer light, and this is the time to recover and restore and recognize and be in deeper relationship to our inner life. Um, in traditional cultures, the cycle of the seasons was and often still is recognized and celebrated with ceremonies. These ceremonies are a way of obtaining and maintaining harmony with the natural world. For humans to live in health, happiness, and harmony, they must be in tune with the continually changing world around them. And this goes back to looking at the cycles of the seasons and living with the natural law. As we learn to live with the cycles of the seasons, we start to harmonize, we start to work with the flow of life that comes from the universe. And that's where these gifts of the winter come from. I want to talk about what the universe gives to us in these gifts. Um, Midwinter ceremony is concerned with curing, dream fulfillment, renewal, and personal well-being. This was a time for cleansing of thoughts, not of deeds. It's a time when the fears and the worries of the year were brought into the open and cured. The second part of the ceremony was concerned with sacred ritual and food and spiritual observations. So the north in the winter can also mean trials people must endure and the cleansing they must undergo. And if we have the ability to face these winds like the buffalo, nice, beautiful allegory here, with its head into the storm, we have learned patience and endurance. So the North teaches us patience and endurance, as it also embraces the deeper inner knowing. Think of a lake that's frozen over, and we look deeply into the lake to see what's in there, and the reflection back is ourselves from the ice. North in some traditions, Native American traditions, it's blue, it can be about defeat and it can be about trouble. Blue symbolized for certain groups of people failure, disappointment, or unsatisfied desire, to say they hopefully everyone says, may you never be blue, may you never become blue. And that expressed belief that they would never fail in anything they undertook. In love charms, for instance, the lover figuratively covered himself with red and prayed that his rival would become entirely blue and walk in a blue path. He is entirely blue approximates the meaning of the common English phrase, he's feeling blue. The blue spirits lived in the North. And so the North kind of talks about having to cover up because it's kind of cold. It's kind of bleak. You're not getting what you need. You have really gone through some big trials and tribulations. And in the North, if you're living your life in the North, you may find yourself with lots of challenges that need to be overcome through inner work. If you're living in the East, you might find that you have lots of new beginnings, that you are growing and learning quickly and embracing the beautiful sun. If you're living in the South, in terms of directions of your life and where you are in the medicine wheel, you're having beautiful growth and abundance coming your way. Sometimes you have more than you even want. And if you're living in the West of your life, you'll be looking at changes, you'll be looking at transformations, transmutations, and it's a physical, since the West is kind of physical, you'll be actually looking at changes within your body or even physical death. And that in the West, it's time to make peace with there is a beginning, middle, and end. And so it may not portend your ending, but you are walking towards the North, which is embracing your full self, your full spiritual self, your full deep wisdom self, and the depths of the darkness. So as we find ourselves in the midst of a powerful energy of the Beaver moon, it is important to take a moment to reflect on the spiritual significance of this big event. The full moon, particularly the Beaver moon, serves as a symbol of deep emotion, completion, and spiritual growth. It's a time when our emotions may be heightened, leading to feeling creative, sometimes anxious, very sensitive, or even exhaustion, tiredness. Like I've put a lot of effort into this. And now what do I see from this effort? What am I showing for this effort? Astrologically, the beaver moon falls under the influence of Gemini and is associated with the theme of communication. And the celestial alignment calls for us to turn inward and tap into our own inner fire. Well, that's going to be a theme now for the rest of the winter is where's your inner fire? Just as the beavers become more active during this time, preparing for the upcoming winter season, we too are encouraged to prepare ourselves spiritually for the colder months ahead. And the colder months ahead are definitely in the north when we feel the colder months ahead, but they can also be symbolically the colder months ahead. Inner communication with yourself is important, but also inner nurturing of that fire, that flame, that spark within you is key to this time. We are, as I read the Akashic energy of humanity around us, we are we're entering the north, the winter months now, because it's November going into December. But in 2024, my sense is that we'll be entering into a north aspect or a winter months of humanity. So the work that we're doing now is really important about it, to lay the foundations of what's going to be coming our way in the years to come. So I recently had the opportunity to see, I actually didn't see the beavers, but I saw their work near where I live. I have it's a, it's a, uh, it's a protected land. There's water there, that there's wetlands, I guess you would call it. And there's a lot of animals and birds that live in the wetlands, and we have beavers. And friends brought me down along the street and said, look at this. And it was a tree that had just fallen over. It was about, I don't know, 6 inches in diameter. It was kind of not a totally young tree, but not an old tree. And the beavers had brought it down. And as you look down the trunk of the tree, there was it's almost like they had a measuring tape, those beavers, because they had started to chew into aspects of that log so they could break it apart and push it into the water. Beavers, I guess, push the branches with leaves into the water. Everything is submerged, and probably the top of the water freezes, and that's what they feed off of, is the leaves and the tree. And I have a lot of questions about that. I have to do some more nature study, but I was so excited to see this phenomena happening, and then to realizing that we were at a beaver full moon. So I felt like this was an important topic to talk to you about in this podcast, to understand that we are stepping into the north. We are stepping into the colder times where the resources won't be as much, and the resources will really be us, ourselves. And what does that mean? What are the gifts in that? As we embrace the energy of the beaver moon, let us draw inspiration from the wisdom of these creatures and the use of this time to reflect on our own spiritual growth and emotional well-being. Just as the beavers work together to prepare for the winter season, we too can use this time together to support one another and nurture our inner fires. So I'm going to introduce a little bit of concept as I talk about us finding our own inner fires. We're talking about an individual growth, individual learning, but there also is an element of community here, that it's time to start to build your right community, bring close those people who have your backs, bring close those people who kind of vibe to your vibes, and who are really going to reflect your goodness, and you're going to reflect their goodness, and you're going to challenge each other to learn and grow as best you can in whatever life brings us. Sometimes we get to hard times and we don't have the right people around us, and they walk away from us. They turn their backs, or they complain, or they bring us down. And I feel like as we go within ourselves, we'll know who the right people are, who the right allies in spirit and allies in real world. So in the winter months, it's good to sit empty and focus on the fire within. During a full moon, one can see all things in the darkness of our psyche. So if we want to look at the moon, as the full moon, as brightening up or lightening up the dark corners in our lives, so that we could see what we're doing, see who's on the operating table, and we can be able to evaluate, is what I'm funding here, is what I'm nurturing here, bringing back the results that I need. So bring to mind what you want to let go of. Bring to mind what you have been working on real hard that isn't returning results. You can even create a ceremony, a fire ceremony, around this of what you want to release. So as the moon wanes, what you desire to release will shrink and move away from you, and you can see that actually if you write it down in either a journal or write it down on a piece of paper or both, and then burn the paper if you wish to say, this, I want this to move away from me. You may not know exactly how it's going to manifest or how the shift will change. But if you recognize, for instance, things could be around income and bills and money and the imbalance of money, or it could be out of balance relationships, or it could be just your thought process. I have belief systems that are not taking me home to joy. And what can you do about those belief systems? Sometimes we think that life is surrounded by these belief systems, but they're not. They're simply illusions. They're simply organizational principles that we're operating under. And we can change those organization principles. We can change our operating system whenever we need to. And then the full moon is a really good time to take a look at how's it working for you, and what do you see and what's going on. So in the winter months, as you release these things, and I tell you, the universe does not like a vacuum, does not like it wants to fill up a vacuum. But what I'm going to suggest to you is sit time for empty for a time and focus on the fire within, and fill yourself with the fire within, and fill yourself with the connection with your soul and spirit to observe the year you just lived, and ask, what have I been funding that no longer serves me? What do I believe that is holding me stagnant? Each winter, each winter month, each winter full, I can talk. Each month, there's a full moon during the winter, and each winter full moon, take a look at what is not serving you and how you can prepare yourself for the spring that is to come, so that you are planting new seeds, so that you're going to dig the earth a little bit differently. Maybe you're going to add something to the dirt that's going to nurture your new dreams, as opposed to just putting things quietly down in the winter and then going back to the same old, same old. This is the winter that you need to really take a look at and change up what you've been nurturing and what you want to develop within yourself. And those starts with your thoughts, because thought precedes realities. So each winter full moon, release and bless and prepare for the new growth that will happen in spring. And may you grow something new in your life that will serve you well. And that's my wish for you going forward. It's just that this gift of the wintertime this is the time to build that foundation, so that what you do finally bring out in the spring does grow corn, does bear fruit, and does give you what you want. As I said before, humanity is going into the winter, not just in these short days of these dark months, but as we go into 2024, we're going to be needing to still stay within ourselves, still, because this is an ascension process. This is about raising the vibration, and we raise that vibration. We go into ascension by looking within, by finding where our gifts are and where we are as divine beings, where that divine spark, what is it telling you about you? And we can't really put a new crop in until we really understand who we are, and we begin to align ourselves with that divine natural flow that lays within us dormant, and we wake it up and we align it within, and we match it. We align it to how the universe is working, and we're responding to what's happening around us based on the season of our life, or based on the season of the actual cycle of the year. As the winter season approaches and the days have started to grow shorter, again, introspection and inner exploration. In the polar regions, the sun is disappearing entirely, and sometimes in your life, the sun can feel like it has disappeared entirely. But the outer sun does not put out the inner light. The inner light still shines. Your inspiration, your endurance, your patience. You can learn to see in the dark. The absence of the light encourages us to turn inward and nurture the fire within ourselves. On the other hand, the world is filled with artificial light and distraction, and it'd be easy to overlook the importance of going within. So let's use these winter months as a unique opportunity to delve into our inner resources and connect with the divine flow of life, and not let these big lights, holidays, timelines, expectations distract us from the work at hand, from the beautiful gifts that the quietness of the winter is going to bring you and can bring you. By embracing the darkness and quieting our external surroundings, we open ourselves up to the potential for growth and alignment in our true self, your absolutely true self, which is where I want you to go and where we need to go. Um, and I'll say this again, we're preparing for the times ahead during this particular winter. That's why this message is so important to come out to you at this time. The symbolism of north direction in the Native American traditions, with its association with blue or black and the freezing over of the lakes, reflects the idea of stillness and clarity. So the stillness within yourself brings clarity. And as you have that inner light, like a little campfire that's kind of shedding a little light, but onto where you are in your mind and where you are in your processes. We want to be still, and we want to observe yourself, and then you want to say, is this working? And it's a time to gaze deeply within yourself and tap into the wisdom that's laying dormant. Just as the natural world enters a state of hibernation, so too can you use this time to nurture yourself and allow for inner growth. And as you align yourself with the flow of the natural world and then the flow of the universe, your soul will speak to you much more clearly. It's the clarity that we're talking about. And the inspiration from your soul will guide you and give you new thoughts, or allow you to be creative in ways that you haven't been before or have never even thought of. And when you do that work, becoming still, becoming clear, listening to that soul's voice, listening to the voice of your gods and the higher power, that's when your vibration begins to raise up. That's when the creativity begins to expand. And you have the opportunity to nurture new ideas, new dreams, ambitions within yourself that you can't do when you're running amok and running from one field to another, trying to harvest or whatever it is that you're doing in your world. It's time to lie dormant and feed and nurture those new dreams, and then recognize where you're stagnant and let them go. It's a period. The symbolism of going dormant, of going into hibernation, is about it's about entering a state of receptivity. It's about allowing gestation and renewal. I'm reminded of the bears who often go into hibernation, and they come out with the baby cubs, with the new cubs. So as you go into your hibernation place and nourish and feed with you within, you'll come out in the spring with new ideas, new ambitions, new excitement. So as the world outside grows colder and still, let us take time to turn inward, to nourish your inner spark, and to allow yourself to grow and evolve in alignment with that natural flow of life. I know I've been repeating this many times in this message, but I embrace the winter as a sacred and precious time for inner exploration and renewal. And what can help you in this time are inner meditations, to find the inner flame and connect to the divine natural flow of life through your breath and sitting quietly, just breathing in spirit and breathing out and relaxing into spirit, and allow yourself to feel how you feel, but don't do anything about it. Just let it flow and let something new, some healing space come towards you, and align yourself with the flow. And you might be saying goodbye to a couple of things you didn't think you were going to say goodbye to, and reach for the healing presence of your soul and God, the source within yourself, and be willing to allow yourself to receive, be willing to be vulnerable to the healing presence of the source and of God, and surrender to this healing process within yourself, this renewal process within yourself, and be ready for the grace of spirit and soul to guide you, to show you, hey, did you look at this path? Or hey, look over here. You've never turned left here in this corner. Why don't you try turning left here? And then again, surrendering to God's highest wisdom. This is the gifts that winter brings us. You don't actually get these gifts in the middle of spring or the middle of summer, or when we're busy with all the fall gathering the acorns as the squirrels do. It's in the winter that we get the time to sit by the fire and, as they say, mend the fishing nets, or whatever it is that your world is asking you to do to prepare for the coming days. Again, through the Akashic records, I have felt change is inevitable. We are being called to ascend. We are called to live at a higher vibration. And the only way we can do that is to let go of what you have been holding on to, so you can open your heart and open your hands to begin to work with something brand new. And that's what's coming for you after this winter, something very new. And there's Sesame Street. My favorite song is Bert and Ernie are singing. They wanted to play jazz, and who is it that Ernie had his rubber ducky, and Bert was saying, you have to put down the rubber ducky if you want to play jazz, if you want to sing the blues. And I thought that was still at this age. I remember that, because if you want to step into really having that miraculous life, having that astounding, beautiful, exciting life, you got to put down the rubber ducky. You got to put down some of the things that you think are so, so very important. And it's in the wintertime, especially during the full moon season, when you can see yourself, is when you're able to see what it is that you can put down, see what you actually have been holding on to that is no longer serving you. Sometimes you don't even know that you're holding on to something. So this is the time to go within and do that. And as we come back out in the spring, March and April and June, a lot of activity is going to be going on, and you're going to be glad that you cleared up, became still and clear, let go, and really nurtured and funded yourself, so that you'll come out with your full vitality, in force, on target, and ready to go. So this is an important message, and I hope that this makes sense to you. And of course, contact me if you have any questions. But for now, I am hoping that you can go with grace, go with God, go into the stillness, and connect with Source, and allow yourself to do a deep healing and a deep dive into who you really are. And you're going to come out amazing in the springtime. So, God bless.
Thank you for joining the Angelscapes podcast. We hope you've gained new insights and inspiration for your journey to uncover and access your soul's power. For more information and a deeper dive into finding clarity in your life, go to angelscapes.com. Remember to subscribe so you can be part of the discussion. It may just change your life. See you next time.